Good evening and welcome to episode 5 of the Unbroken channel's Down But Out podcast. Tonight we have joining us Andy Oliver. Evening, Andy.
Evening all.
And he's basically made themselves my co-host, Ange Westbrook. Evening, Ange.
I think I might have been invited actually, but hello.
Maybe invited, maybe not.
Looks all the way on.
Yeah, but it's nice to get a female face on camera so they're not looking at me all night.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tonight we're going to be doing our sort of main feature on the big man, Andy O. So
I'll last about 10 minutes then.
yeah, I mean this should be nice and easy. First time I met Andy, I knew I liked him because he laughed at one of my incredibly dark jokes, and I sort of knew from there that we were going to be friends, which is great. And yeah,
I won't go that far.
the rest is history, so to speak. So if you wouldn't mind, Andy, can you just give us a quick intro to yourself, starting with early service and when you served?
Andy Oliver. I joined the Air Force in 1989. It's probably before you were born, wasn't it, Mike? So.
Year I joined the army.
I did probably about 8.5 years, something like that. So I'm probably one of the oddball of the bunch where I wasn't medically discharged. So I'd hurt myself, I'd injured myself by then, but I wasn't medically discharged. So I didn't start sort of suffering from stuff until later on. So left the Air Force, went off and started to do other things, and got married, had a kid, and all that sort of stuff. And had a few jobs since. Worked for myself for a bit. Worked for Coca-Cola for a bit. Started to work in automation, and then I sort of had this grand plan to join the Air Force again. Sort of relatively quickly after I came out, probably within sort of 2-3 years, and so I sort of hatched this plan that if I was going to join the Air Force again, I probably need to go and get a degree. So I went off and did an engineering degree, but it probably took a bit longer to get that going than I then anticipated. And by the time I'd finished, I was starting to hurt with my knee and things like that. So it sort of put pay to sort of future grand plans really. So I'm now a mechanical engineer by trade. I design bits and bobs for automation machinery, and yeah, there we go. I ride a bike a lot.
So what I'm hearing is you tinker with mechanics. You're incredibly fast on a bike, so you're cheating. No,
it's called marginal gains.
That's all good. So, with when you decided to leave the Air Force, that thing, you obviously made that decision yourself.
Yeah.
Was it down to sort of I don't know, you just wanted a change in career, or you sort of knew it'd break your body down?
There was a couple of reasons really. One of them, I was actually posted down in South Wales, which is a place that I didn't really want to be. The Air Force was going through a bit of a transition period at the time. All the nice postings had disappeared. I was due to get married, and the job I was in was I spent probably about the last 18 months of my career on a crash recovery team on what they called AR and TF, so it's aircraft recovery and transportation flight, which is colloquially known within the Air Force as crash and smash. So sort of with the view of sort of due to get married and being on call on a pager every sort of 5 to 6 weeks with a backpack ready to go at 2 hours notice if anything decided to fall out of the sky while you're on page, and you'd sort of disappear and you wouldn't know where you were going and when you were coming back and how long you were going for. So I sort of took the decision that that's probably not a good move for being newly married. So decided to spread my wings and go and try other things. And in hindsight, was it the best move I made? Probably not, but hey ho, you live and learn. So.
And that wasn't all you were doing, was it? You weren't just packing up with the uncertainty and going. You were seeing stuff that wasn't nice, and you were going through it without perhaps fully realising. And now might not be the time. Maybe come back to that. But my first conversation with you was about your job, and it's quite cool. I think it's quite cool because I'm a fellow geek and we've connected over our engineering degrees, and I sat there going, "Oh, what? Really? Cool. How did you do that then?" Can you tell us a bit more about what you now do and some of the things that you've made? Because it's, I think, really cool.
Yeah, so I've spent probably the second half of my career sort of outside the Air Force and using hands and spanners and things like that. So sort of sat in front of a CAD screen. So
that's why you're so good with your hands. Get it?
But I still can't multitask because I'm a man. I've been lucky to be involved with a couple of, 2 or 3 innovative companies that have had their hand in some quite, from a mechanical side, quite clever machinery. So I was involved with the machines that made PG Tips tea bags. So the tetrahedral pyramid shaped tea bags they came about because Tetley had made this nice round one, and they had monkeys on telly sort of flashing Tetley tea bags around, and PG came around and said, we want a new tea bag. Can you make this? The company that I was working for, they went, yeah, we can make that, I suppose. By the way, we need it at 2,000 a minute. So they invented a machine that makes tetrahedral tea bags at 2,000 a minute, and and they sold quite a lot of them. So Coca-Cola was a funky one to work for because they, having sort of witnessed the amount of Coca-Cola that whizzes around on a filling head at 2,000 a minute, filling cans of pop, which huge numbers of people drink, and there's mountains of it in warehouses, and you think, where does it all bloody go? So I've been involved in sort of biggish companies. I've done machines for GlaxoSmithKline, making putting little sort of headache powders into paper. If the older members will remember Beecham's powders, where it's sort of folded in a little piece of paper. So we made a machine for the Americans who don't like tablets to make a bunch of those at sort of 700, 800 a minute, where they were normally sort of done sort of semi-automatically by hand with a room full of people that we sort of killed the workforce in sort of one foul swoop. And automation won in terms of people out of jobs, but the bean counters make their money that way. So,
but people just come to your company, don't they? And they just go, "We want to do this." And you do it.
Yeah.
You just plan it from scratch.
Yeah. I mean, it could be anything. It could be a new product. It could be anything. They'll go, "We want to do that. We want it in this shape packet, or we want to make it this fast. Can you do it?" And we'll.
How often do you exceed their expectations, making it faster or better?
You always try and look for ways where you can push the boundary and actually give them more than what they want, because it helps build in redundancy within the system. So if they want 2,000 a minute, ideally you want to be able to theoretically go quicker than that, just so you're not knocking the back out of the machine. So it's got some spare capacity in it, even though the product quality might start to sort of deteriorate at that point. But the mechanics of it will handle it. So there's always ways to sort of push the boundaries, which is what people in F1 do, people in any motorsport will do. They'll push those boundaries to the ultimate limit in order to make it reliable for the duration that they want it to run for.
So what you're basically saying is you are way too clever for the RAF.
Really clever.
That is basically what you're saying. Should have joined the army.
Well, I was a spanner man on Tornado, so it was it wasn't. I was challenged because it was stuff and systems that I hadn't touched.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see how nostalgic you are now. In your house, do you have a picture of the Coca-Cola Christmas lorry?
No, but I have a crystal Coca-Cola bottle.
Ooh, that's nice.
Somewhere.
Yeah. Just an upper class version of what I wanted, really.
Yeah, they were manufactured for the millennium, actually, for the year 2000 when that came in, when everybody's laptops and computers were mysteriously going to die overnight, and they decided to strike some crystal bottles for the employees. So.
Nice.
Oh. I'm really sorry about this.
Hello, dogs. So we've got some dogs joining us tonight as well. It's all good. Everybody loves a dog. So obviously your career is, still going strong. You're still, we'll call it a tinkerer. You still do clever things that most people can't do. But you also found obviously some help with sport, and we haven't really sort of gone into the depths of why we went into sport for you, but we will only go there if you're comfortable speaking about what took you there with the Invictus program.
Go for it.
So what was how you've been cycling a long time, I guess. Yeah. So when it came around to sort of getting involved with Invictus, Invictus trials and things, what was your motivation behind sort of getting involved?
So I suppose I'd sort of need to lurch back a few years. So I sort of raced on a bike as a junior, sort of 16, 17, 18 years old, relatively, on a decent level, not super decent, but good enough. And then joined the Air Force, and the cycling sort of disappeared from me. And then I started playing rugby and doing other things. And then probably back in, I suppose, 2010, 2012, I started to pick the bike back up again. And then I got to a point, probably about 2015, where I was starting to sort of get fit again. And I thought, well, maybe I'll have another crack. And started to compete again. But by that point, I'd started suffering quite badly with my knee. And it just got worse and worse and worse. And I had to sort of push the bike to one side again. And in 2019, I had some quite severe surgery on my leg, where the consultant very kindly decided to break it and change, basically sort of do a bit like an old Fitzpatrick Supervet thing, where they changed the load line through my knee. So they broke my leg below the knee, kicked your lower leg outboard, which created a nice V shape in the bone where they'd sort of opened it up and put a big metal plate over the top and said, give it a bit and you'll be able to walk on that. So, but as a consequence of that, I ended up with a bit of nerve damage, which I've been left with as well. So I started, I suppose, some form of recovery just about sort of when lockdown came in, sort of early 2020. And it took me probably 4 or 5 months to actually start turning a pedal again. And I was using an indoor trainer as rehab, basically, to try and sort of get some leg strength back, get some muscle strength back. And I got to a point when I thought I'd like to do a little bit more of this with, a sort of, military connection. I'd heard about Invictus and didn't really know how to get involved, or how to get involved with, with cycling. On that side of things, I'd got in touch with Help for Heroes and said, do you have a cycling club that I can join? They were having their own issues, I think, at the time with funding and things like that. And it was literally, I was just trawling, going on the Invictus website, and came across this form to fill in for the Invictus app, and got through that. Got accepted onto the WIS, the sort of Wounded in Service, in Invictus app, and I think more by sort of luck than judgment, I stumbled across the the RBL stuff for the training camps. So we'll go, yes, I'll have some of that, and it was probably that was like the catalyst really to say, well, yes, I can compete. I can't compete as I am now within my own age category on a level field with somebody that doesn't have nerve damage, but within, I suppose, that sort of wounded military environment, it enables you to. I suppose it enables you to have that sort of extra bit of thirst and desire, knowing that you're on a bit more of a level playing field. And so did the training camps. Didn't know anybody from Adam. Put myself out, sort of really outside my comfort zone, because I've sort of become quite sort of insular in terms of meeting new people and being able to communicate with new people and trying to strike conversations up and things like that. So it was all very alien and very but I did the training camps, and then obviously fortunate enough to get selection to go to Vegas, which completely blew my mind. Absolutely blew me away. So
as we get into that, I heard that the best training camp you ever did was when you went out for a little cracking Greek meal with a bloke called Mick.
Mr. Shuttleworth.
Yeah. And Mr. Shuttleworth with his phone.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Going back to taking us back through to, I think, I'm going to say Cold War, with some of the photos he had on his phone.
Yeah, that was like his whole history in front of him on his phone, wasn't it?
But what a cracking night that was.
Yeah.
So you went to Vegas. Before we get into the weeds of that, I just want to give a very quick shout out to all of our US warriors who are currently competing in San Diego. I was going to do a roll call of all the medals, but they've won so bloody many. We would be here all night. And some of the army guys that I met out there as well, been keeping up with them. And guys, you're doing a cracking job. Keep it up. There it is. So
nice touch.
Now I just kicked my phone, and that is a nice touch. Did you have that on standby?
Yeah.
I did not tell. I did.
That's a big up to Mr. Rufio. That is. So.
Yeah, and I didn't tell him to have that ready either. You just had it there.
Yeah.
So those guys are competing in the middle of our night tonight in their gold medal wheelchair rugby
It's
match.
about. I think it's about 11 p.m. local, isn't it? Like to us.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it kicks off about 11 p.m. local. I'll be tuning in. So I'm working
I
from home
watched
tomorrow.
a bit last night. It was incredible.
Stay in bed a little bit later. So Vegas. you got selected to come and compete with us legends in Vegas. And you know,
sporting icons
and like 40 other sporting icons that came with us. How did that make you feel when you got that phone call? Obviously, there would have been a bit of a, like there was with me, maybe a bit of a, didn't make Invictus. But when they said you're going to Vegas for 2 weeks instead of Dusseldorf.
Yeah. To be honest, I was expecting nothing, because I was, you know, there's people on the training camps, you know, there's, you know, ex sort of Invictus competitors, people that have done this sort of stuff before, and I thought, I'm not going to, you know, it's a shoe-in for you know, the vast majority of these. I'm not going to get a look in. So to get any kind of sort of phone call to say, yes, you're on the plane, was, yeah, completely mind-blowing for me. I was really taken aback, quite emotional about it. You know, and it sort of, you know, stuck a, you know, a bit of fire in my belly. You know, something I've probably not had for, yeah, some time, I suppose. So, and I just loved every single minute of it, and I would have stayed for another month. I would have, yeah, I would have cheered as many people on as I could. I'd have done as many sports as I could. Obviously, you were restricted, so I'd have had a go at anything. If somebody said, "Oh, we need you to do that," yeah, yeah, stick my name down, I'll have a go. So
when you said before that I'd become quite insular and quite reserved, it really surprises me about you, because we chatted in the first day, I think, might have even been waiting for our luggage for 17 hours or whatever it was when it got stuck. And we chatted, and you were one of the most authentic, genuine, nice blokes I've ever met. And when you said there, I got a bit emotional. You're not afraid to connect with your emotions as well. And I love that about you, because we've had some chats and, you know, we've gone there, and you're so personable. And then you say you were insular and quiet, and then you've come out there with us, and we've seen just something completely different. And we all adore you. And you, in fact, what was the award that you won at the end?
Oh,
he's got it. He's got it there. Oh, he's got the top on as well. Do you know what? I've just noticed you've got our top on. MVP.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that earlier.
Yeah.
Most valued participant, was it?
Everyone voted.
Yeah.
Everyone voted. And you got the most votes from all 29 athletes. And you were blown away by that, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even on your birthday, you literally got up, weren't competing that day, and you went to support the team all day. Because that's...
And bought us all donuts.
That's who you are. Yeah, and bought about 1,000 Krispy Kremes, which... That's why I didn't lose weight in Vegas, people. That man.
How did you feel when you had your name called out for that? How did you feel?
I was completely floored by it, humbled. To get any sort of recognition by, you know, your peers is, it's the top of the tree, isn't it? You know, it's you know, I'm a sort of heart on sleeve person, really, and I just I try and put as much into it as what I can to get the most out of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you know, I was there for a period of time, and I just wanted to absorb as much as I could, because, you know, who knows, it might not ever happen again. So I'll take it all day long. So thank you very much.
It's all good. And it, like you said there, Raj, you know, when you said you wouldn't have known he was quite insular. Well, the first couple of times we sort of met at like the cycling track, you were actually quite quiet.
Yeah.
And like you say, you around the hotel, probably like most of us really, there were groups of people that knew each other, and you sort of didn't want to interrupt almost. That's how I felt sometimes. But then that one night in York where there's like a few of us sort of lonely ass couples stood around the bar, and it was like, right, we're going to go out and get some food. And, you know, what, five or six of us went out to find some food. Every restaurant turned us away, apart from one. And we had a cracking night. And that's sort of really where I got to know your personality. because I find it hard to connect with people. You wouldn't believe it. Well, you probably do believe it, because there's probably a handful of people from Vegas that I really speak to often. Not because I don't.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
No,
we connected like that straight away.
Exactly. But if you speak to, if I was to call my wife down and I asked her without a prompt, how many friends do I interact with in Bournemouth? The answer is 2.
Wow.
It's just who I am.
I can relate to that. I've probably got about the same here.
Yeah, exactly. So when we all got together and you started speaking, I could talk to you, and I never felt like you weren't engaged in the conversation. And that's one of the things I liked about you. The other thing I liked about you, passionate about what we were there to do, what we were doing, and you made us all a little bit emotional. Out at Red Horse, that gold medal.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like a fight. Yeah, that was a tear fight back. That was probably in hindsight I probably should have let go a bit more, but I gritted teeth more than anything else. But yeah, I was completely and utterly, like I said, unexpected. Turned up with no expectations whatsoever, and yeah, to learn you've actually medalled. Even then, when they said I'd medalled, they hadn't said, what you'd got. It wasn't until sort of down with another couple, and then all of a sudden they're calling your category out, and you're the last one sat on the chair. I could have pulled my eyes out at that particular moment, even without going up and getting it. So yeah, it was hugely emotional for me. The whole trip really, and just to see everybody, excel and be the best person that they could be, at that particular point in time was just.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's a picture.
Look at that face.
Was just it was just awesome to witness and be involved with, and yeah.
So have you got that picture yet?
I've got that picture reserved for a frame similar to the one that's behind me that is actually turning up tomorrow, that my cycling jersey is going in, and that picture is going in the bottom corner, and my medal's going in the other one. So,
you kept your cycling jersey, you didn't swap it?
I didn't. I wasn't swapping that for lovely money.
Same with me. There's a few things which I thought I'm definitely keeping hold of, because we only have one of them, and that was one of them. Have you got it there?
Yeah, ready to go.
Ready
waiting.
And I think you talk about sort of not expecting it, but you're clearly, when you got on that bike, and what made it more impressive, it wasn't even your bike. So it wasn't a bike you normally ride. Like all of us from the UK, we borrowed bikes out there.
Yeah.
So you sort of, you have a little bit of a feeling that, I don't know if I'll be able to do it on this bike. And then somebody tips up in your category with like a custom, ridiculous bike that's probably more expensive than my car.
Yeah.
So that was an incredible moment.
Yeah.
You didn't just do cycling though. Tell us what else you did.
Did a bit of swimming, didn't we? Got a couple of medals in swimming. Had a go at wheelchair rugby, which is like a baptism of fire. And then spot of rowing to boot. So, which I again completely on the day was blinkers on, and that was probably I probably executed that as best that I could on the day. I think
you did.
I don't think I could have done any better apart from having bigger arms.
What are you going to look to try any more sports, or are you going to try and hone in? Because obviously, I won't take no for an answer when I say you are going for IG25.
Well, yeah, if they'll take me, if they'll accept my application, then yes, I would be.
We'll be on the training camps for sure.
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
I've heard, again, it's rumour control, but I've heard there's no cycling.
But it's cold in Canada at that time of year, isn't it?
Makes it a little bit more fun on a recumbent, though. Yes. So, are you thinking of tipping your hat to some other sports, because you didn't actually perform badly in any sport? So you're like that one kid I used to hate at school that was on the cricket team, was on the football team, was on the rugby team, could run. So you are quite talented when it comes to, when you put your mind to something, you do it.
I wouldn't say talented, it's just say versatile.
Yeah. Talented, versatile. But what sports do you think you might?
I'd really like to have probably a better go at wheelchair rugby, because I only had about 5 minutes in the chair before the first game. So I'd like to sort of have a proper crack at that, I think, on some of the training camps. I was super impressed with the archers. The way they sort of performed, and I'd really like to have a go. I don't think I could shoot straight for toffee, but yeah, just to have a go, to see and try and try and fixate on what those guys do with a bow and arrow is pretty impressive. I don't know if there's any tracky field type stuff. We'll have a go at that. Swimming, I'll have another crack at that. Rowing, I'll have another crack at that. And anything else that crops up. Bowls, is there going to be bowls? I'll have a crack at that.
Apparently there might be wheelchair curling.
We'll have a crack at that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Is that where you actually throw somebody down the rink on a wheelchair, or is it?
I hope so. I've never seen adaptive curling. I'll be honest. I've not even Googled it yet, because I'm sort of waiting to see what they're going to throw in there. Rowing's going to be there, I believe, because I'm pretty sure I've seen that on the initial sort of logo they put out.
Yeah.
So rowing, archery. I want to give that a crack. I used to be a fairly good shot. So it's
going to be sort of a hybrid games, and there's something like tobogganing or something. Yeah, I'll have a go at that.
Skeleton.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't like to throw themselves down a tube on a dinner tray?
Yeah, we'll have a go at that. What's the worst that could happen?
So I've got a question, Andy.
Go on.
So obviously you and I both rowed in Vegas, and I've decided to come back, and I'm going to see British Rowing about getting an adaptive classification in the UK. Can you do that with cycling? Get an official adaptive classification and compete?
I did apply to British Cycling to see if I could get a para classification.
Yeah.
But I think I'm right in saying that with my level of injury, I'm probably outside of that threshold. So I've been told I might get para 3, and I would have thought you might be the same. But I think it depends on the sport of how they do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Because cycling only goes up to C5.
Right.
And I think when they obviously did your medical assessment in Vegas, where they sort of classify you, they classify me as a C6, which is basically an open category outside of the normal power category. So they sort of view you as, we recognise that you're a bit gimpy on your leg, but
not gimpy enough.
But not gimpy enough to get you a para classification. So, but who knows? So.
I don't quite understand the way the classifications work. So, like for instance, backstroke, I could only do it with one arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was still a 5.5, which is almost normal.
Yeah.
Even though I was then swimming against people with both arms backstroke, even though I can't physically use that right arm for backstroke.
Yeah.
So classifications, it's I don't really understand it yet. It's something I wouldn't mind having a sort of a delve into.
It's one of these sort of black art things, isn't it? One of these unknown mysteries of how they classify people. It's just, but yeah, we'll have a go at anything. If there's stuff available, I'll have a crack. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I think whereabouts in the country are you? Don't give us an exact location in case we've got stalkers watching. But you're further north, are you?
Yeah, I'm middle of the country, Northampton. So
okay, not too bad. Because we need to arrange a bit of a reunion, couple of beers, and
yeah.
So I mean, actually, I go through Northampton in a couple of weeks. Next week, I'm off up to Silverstone for a couple of days.
Okay.
For a conference in God, I can't even remember the name. Is it Whittlebury Hall or something?
Whittlebury Hall, yeah.
Yeah.
It's about 20 minutes away from me.
I've just driven past there today, Silverstone, Northampton, coming back from. I took Madam to Shiplake College today.
Nice. Yeah, I'm off there next week. And hopefully I'll get a call from the surgeon tomorrow to find out when I'm going in for the next operation. And then I can actually ask the question once he's done it, right, do I need to now start rowing with one arm or can I build up that shoulder?
Have you kept up your rowing or have you had to stop because of it?
I've had to stop because of it.
Yeah.
So all I've literally been doing really is swimming.
Yeah.
Just some light water work. But my missus has got a bike turning up this week, so I'm going to get back out on the bike now. And even though I know it's not in the next category, I enjoy throwing it about the road. So get back on that.
So can I bring in at this point, and we do talk about this quite often, our mental well-being and our journeys in terms of you, Andy, in particular, with what we touched upon earlier. How it may or may not have affected you and where you're at now and what helps and what doesn't, because we've had some deeper meaningfuls about how we manage our mental well-being, whether it be medication or therapy or what we're up to, and the support that we get from RBL and each other, because that was a big one for us in Vegas, each other, and the connections that we have. And talking earlier, I've had conversations with both of you since we came back because we connected the way we did, and we catch up and we go, right, mate, how's it going? Tell us how it is, and where you're at with it all and how you're doing.
I've been better. I think over the years I've sort of been very good at hiding stuff and not talking about it, and I suppose being in Vegas sort of opened my eyes a little bit to be a bit more open and a bit more honest with myself in how I feel and what I sort of try and do about it. And it's took a long time for me to realise that stuff that I'd been involved with while I was on Crash and Smash was not pleasant, and stays with you. And over the last sort of 2 or 3 years is becoming more and more prevalent, to the point where I've been brave enough to stick my hand up and say, you know what, perhaps I do need a little bit of help.
Yeah.
So culminated with a trip to the GP last week, and followed that up with a call to combat stress last week. So, of which in the next couple of weeks I'll have an assessment with them to try and dispel some of the demons that are running around my head. So
and it is brave and it is hard, and you strike me as the typical man's man, that we can't go there, or you were, but you're changing. And is that, have you felt that pressure? You're like, I'm all right, I'm just going to keep going, I'm all right, I'm going to keep going, everything's fine.
Well, yeah, I think I was probably in a little bit of denial, and you just think, well, there's always somebody that's worse off and needs the help and support, and I didn't sort of classify myself as one of those people that needed it. So you just sort of, typical man, I suppose. You just sort of sit there and try and deal with it as best as you can. Which, for a number of years, I sort of got by. But I suppose what I've tried to do is use sport to try and take some of that pain away.
Yeah.
Take some of that anxiety away. Take some of that that thought of what you've seen away. So I've used certainly over the last three years, I've set myself these little challenges. Every month or 2 months, or put something in the diary for a week bit in the future, and just to give you something to aim at and to try and sort of keep yourself focused on something else. And I suppose I've done that to some success, but then I'm a massive advocate of using sport in order to help, in those sort of situations. But it only gets you part way there. It doesn't.
Yeah, and
doesn't
this
get
is
you all the way there.
We use sport, we use physical exertion, we use things to look forward to, because it's part and parcel of keeping us buoyant. But what we're also in danger of doing sometimes when we do that is backing it up and backing it up and backing it up. And there's a lot of, particularly amongst the community that we've been in Vegas, our lot, their lot, ex-military, amputees, seen times of crisis and conflict in their military careers, personal traumas, be that childhood, adulthood, whatever. And it backs up and it backs up and it backs up. But we then sometimes get focused on being busy, and then it carries on backing up. And so it's really important to take a breath and take a pause. And we all did that a bit with each other in the evenings out there. And we kind of dialed it back, and having some real authentic chats about what's what. And I know I'm a bit of a nag in terms of advocating therapy. Why wouldn't I? I do it for a living. But there's a lot, particularly of males, that won't reach out for support where they're clearly traumatised, and it can be of huge benefit. And so I really hope you get what you need, because you deserve it.
Yeah.
And you need to be living your best life.
And it is.
It takes different routes to get there, and you are living your best life, but there's more to be had.
It's a generational thing, though, isn't it? Like, what the years you spent in service, the same sort of time when I joined, really, or just coming after. It was deemed a very masculine job to be in, and that sort of feeds into the not wanting to actually step out and say, actually, I need help. And then you said, set yourself goals, you keep yourself busy. But again, I did exactly the same thing, to a point where you become so tunnel visioned, family around you, you half the time you don't even know they're there anymore, because you're so focused on just keeping yourself busy and looking forward. And, it can fall into sort of that neglect.
Disconnect.
Yeah, you absolutely disconnect. And
I mean, I've probably noticed over the last couple of years, really, that I not zone out as such, but I just shut off very easily from stuff that's going on around me, and I either don't hear it or I don't recognise it. Drives my missus nuts, bless her. So and it's only recently I've actually sort of stuck my hand up with her and said, look, perhaps stuff from the past is not good. I need a little chat and a little help with it in order to sort of help me along that road and make our life a little better, if nothing else. So it's but when you sort of constantly, when you're not in that zone of setting yourself goals and doing stuff, and you've got that sort of image that pops in your head. I can still smell the fuel-laden soil. I can still see the little marker flags in the ground. I can still see the copper on the gate where you enter the crash site. I can still see the carnage that's left behind, which is, you can see that image and you just get instant sort of memory of a certain smell or taste or whatever it was at the time, and it's
it floods your body as well, doesn't it? It's not just here; it's just everything goes.
Yeah.
And then your fight or flight kicks in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think over the year, I probably, because I didn't sort of recognise it as such early on, I've probably job hopped too frequently, because when things got a little bit tricky, I just chucked the towel in and went somewhere else.
Yeah.
Because that was the easier route, and I'd always sort of taken that easier route when things got a bit sort of tricky, or a little, too much, or you got overwhelmed, or your workload goes through the roof. I just sort of went into a bit of a shutdown mode without recognising it as anything else. Only now that when you look back and you pick up on these moments, that you've done in the past, and I still remember. I remember driving to work probably 10 years ago and just thought, what happens if I just sort of turn left now and just, stupid things, and it, you don't think so much about it at the time because you're not in that process of actually realising what's going on. So, yeah, tricky.
Yeah, no, it is very tricky, and if just one person, and we say this every episode, if it's just one, you influence one person from this episode just to step forward and say, look, I need some help, straight away with this podcast we start making a difference.
I really hope we do, because there are so many amazing characters that are battling demons, so many, some real, on the outside, strong, capable, amazing individuals, but they are hurting on the inside, and they're not seeing in the mirror the bits that they need to see in order to heal, and they need help with that.
Exactly.
The way forward.
Like with every episode, if you are, listening on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, or you're watching it on YouTube, every episode in the comments, we have links to NHS mental health and wellbeing section. We also have the Veterans Gateway link on there, so you can actually, that's got all the charities that are involved with helping members of the military or civilian world. Right, get over or seek the help they need. I'd say get over that line of putting their hand up and saying, "Help me."
It's an early road for me, because it's all sort of fairly new, so new territory, new ground I'm breaking. So it's I think putting your hand up is one of the hardest steps. I actually spoke to my boss yesterday and told him, which is particularly difficult, I must admit. So, just to put him in the picture, really, just to, not saying I don't need anything at the minute from you, but I'm just making you aware.
I'm so glad you did that.
And it's not the sort of normal conversations that you have.
But how brave and how vulnerable and how important. Really, really important.
Yeah, and it just takes us back to that quote you see all the time. Even a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You've made that step now, so it's another step forward each time you see somebody, you speak to somebody, and people will understand. And the more you talk, the easier it'll get to talk.
Well, I think
you'll end up a gobshite like me.
has probably been the catalyst for it to make you, make me open my eyes a little bit more and go, you know what? Perhaps you do need a little bit of help. And and without having that experience, I probably wouldn't have done what I've done in the last couple of weeks. So.
Me, I'm so proud of you. I know it sounds patronising, but I am so proud of you.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to see you taking that step.
I'm sure we can have a deeper chat about it as well in the future over a beer and some dark jokes and bit of karaoke from Ange.
Yeah, I think going back to the sort of military experience of doing that sort of stuff. There's obviously people amongst us all that have seen far worse, probably that I've ever seen, or you wouldn't wish to see at any point in the future. So, but at the time, I think the only therapy you got was in the bar afterwards, and that probably wasn't. I mean, in hindsight, probably wasn't the right sort of therapy that you might have needed. But it's that's how it was at the time. Times change.
Times do change, but I think we can all recognise in our military careers that one of the main issues in terms of any mental well-being support was that the people that looked after you were your chain of command. Yeah. And we were all looking to maintain military capability and output. So no one wanted to put their hand up and flag to their chain of command, who are the people that are supposed to look after their welfare, that they weren't feeling very well in here. So it was a bit of a really difficult thing to do. And it still is in some respects, but it's getting better.
Yeah, they sort of introduce trim training. But I think what I found with people that needed to be trimmed after an incident, because the trim training, it'd almost been a sort of a panic response at the time from the MOD. And rather than pick certain people to have that training, it was, right, we need this many people, who's going to do it? Now, if you're old in the tooth, stripey, that's just had an incident, you're a man's man, you don't want to be getting trimmed by some 24-year-old who is literally just come out to theatre and you've been out there seeing God knows what for 4 or 5 months already.
Mick, help the uninitiated with trim.
With trim?
Yeah.
Oh, God, now you're asking. I can't remember the acronym.
An old style of phone in the 80s, isn't it? Yeah,
so it was basically, it was if you'd been in a traumatic incident, basically it's meant to be a grounding conversation to talk about, what happened, how it happened, what did you see, how did you feel, how do you feel now? So it was almost like as close to the incident as possible, like a therapy session. What's the acronym? I'm going to have to Google that now. It's going to annoy me for the rest of the night.
Sorry, I just wanted, because you were talking about it, and I wanted
the
public to understand.
She was testing you, Mike.
Exactly. I've not been tested for ages. Trauma risk management.
Okay.
So effectively, like I said, a mini therapy session, and it's basically to identify if you can actually go back and do your job, or whether you're going to be a risk to the people you're serving with. Yeah. I've worked with people that point blank refused to go and see somebody who was trim trained, even though you could see they were properly rattled. But again, it's a stigma thing, and it is getting easier now. And I think the more people that talk about it, the better. And we've also got potential. I might invite you in for this one as well, Andy. I've been speaking to another podcaster called Let's Be Frank, and they're sort of willing and open to doing like a collaboration episode, because their podcast is purely on men's mental health. But we will need to obviously balance it with maybe women's mental health specific episode as well, and just try and get some of these other people out there that are doing good work in the same sphere we're trying to do. And you could be the lead host for some of them, Ange.
Well, the men's ones.
No.
Yeah, we'll do a menopause one.
Brilliant.
I'll get my coat with Andy.
I'll get me estrogen.
Yeah.
Well, you need both.
But no, it's been great to talk to you tonight, Andy.
No, my pleasure.
Lovely to share your experiences,
Right.
and thank you very much.
No worries.
So please come on again, and you, and of course, thank you to Ange.
Why, thank you.
Yeah.
No, it's been really good to chat, and just you're a legend, mate. You're a legend. We had such a good time out there, and you are such a genuine, kind, caring man. So it is really nice for me as your friend to see you caring and kind towards yourself. So hats off.
No worries.
All right, good night.
See you all soon. All right. Ta-da.
Bye.